Before we get into the details of fixed income characteristics, let me just explain where does this fit in into the whole CFA curriculum. This is one of the asset classes, the other being equity instruments as well as alternative investments. So these are the main three asset classes, and this would carry equal weightage across both L1, L2 as well as an L3. The other major divisions in the CFA exam are the investment tools, which comprises of your economics, maths and financial reporting analysis, as well as the portfolio management, which has got a larger share in the L3. Okay, so now that we understand that fixed income instruments are part of the asset classes, let's get into the details of the characteristics of fixed income investments. First up, the issuer. Issuer is the one who is going to issue the bond, which is a fixed income instrument. It can also be issued by the corporation, like I say a Tata Steel, by the government of India, by supranationals like Asian Development Bank or an International Monetary Fund, by municipalities, by the state governments also. So these are the issuers who are in need of money, and they indeed raise bonds, which is a fixed income instrument. Now, what is the par value? The par value is like, let's just take the example of Tata Steel. Now, if Tata Steel wants to raise 100 crores, it is a very high amount, and even the debt issue will be open to retail investors. So it is just the denomination of each bond. It is just for simplicity's sake, assume there's going to be the 1 lakh is going to be the par value of one bond. So Tata Steel would indeed issue 1 lakh bonds, 1 lakh worth rupees bonds of 10,000 in nature, which would sum up to the total amount of rupees 100 crores. So the par value of each instrument is nothing but the value of that bond, which the investor has to pay at the beginning, and at the end or the maturity of that instrument, the issuer will return back the money to the investor. So that is par value. In our case, it is 1 lakh rupees. Now, what is the tenor? Tenor, as you all would understand, it is self-explanatory. It is the duration of which this fixed income instrument is going to be actively available for trading as well as for holding till maturity. So in our case, let's take the example of 5 years. So Tata Steel is going to issue 1 lakh rupees bond of tenor 5 years. And currency, this being an Indian company, and let's assume it is being issued only in India, and hence the currency of the bond is going to be INR. Interest rate. Now, interest rate is a very crucial thing. Interest rate is one of the return which we would get in a fixed income instrument. Now, this interest rate can be either fixed or floating. Let's get into those details later. So, for the moment, let's assume it's going to pay you a 9% return on 9% return annually. Why do I stress annually? Because in your CFA curriculum, we would see that the bonds mostly pay a semi-annual interest payment, which means that we would get the interest payments every 6 months. So in our case, and this is a practice that's prevailing in the Indian market, majorly it will be an annual payment. So here we have an example wherein Tata Steel is going to issue in INR, each value is going to be 1 lakh rupee bonds, and the interest is going to be paid at 9% annually. And what is a rating? A rating is an validation of the credit profile of the issuer. Let's just take for example, CRISIL is one of the leading rating agencies in India, and he has indeed rated the credit profile of Tata Steel, and for this specific bond he is giving a rating of CRISIL AA. So these are the main fixed income characteristics which we should be aware of, because these will help us in determining as to what kind of investment and when we can make such investments. Okay, so this is an example I have taken from a National Stock Exchange where both the equity as well as the debt investments are being traded. So this is a Food Corporation 9.95% 2022. So what it means is that the issuer here is Food Corporation of India, so which is an affiliation of the Government of India. So let's just assume that it is being issued by the extension of the government itself. And the interest rate of 9.95% indicates that it is a fixed interest rate. It is not mentioned, but let's assume that it is the annual interest payment is going. The interest payment is going to be on an annual basis. and this last traded price is I have taken as of September 24th, which is 107.71. And it is also quoted that the yield to maturity is 8.33%. Let's get to the details of it now. The total amount Food Corporation of India has raised is about 200 crores. So the issuer, as I said earlier, is Food Corporation of India. The issue date is Jan 1st, 2013. So it's already been about 2.5 years since this bond has been issued and it is being traded in the market. The face value is 100 rupees and the coupon is a fixed 9.95%. The maturity or the tenor, the 2022 in the beginning explains that it is going to mature on 2022. So the maturity or the total tenor of this instrument is about 10 years and it is expiring on December 31st, 2022. The interest payment dates are on every December 31st, which is an annual payment. So every December 31st, FCA will pay 9.95 rupees because it is going to be 9.95% on the face value. Interest rate is always interest payments are always done on the face value and not on the last traded price. Here the last traded price is 107.71, but the interest payments is always done on the face value, which is 100 rupees. So on every December 31st, FCA will pay 9.95 rupees to the bond holders till maturity, till that is 2022. From they have already started paying from December 2013. So now this bond is actually trading in the market. And somebody has actually purchased this bond at 107.71 rupees. So now we have clearly understood like what are the characteristics of the bond investments. Now we get into how does the value of 107.71 come, because like equity, this is the basic equation by which the bond pricing is arrived at. So I would allow everybody to just look at the equation, which is PV is equal to payment, which is being discounted at different rates. This is, as you would have already covered in quantitative methods, this is just the discounting of the cash flows. So now when I say discounting of the cash flows, everybody could relate to what is the cash flow here. Cash flow is nothing but, in our earlier example, it was 9.95 rupees, which we had got every annual. Alright, so let's just go to the valuation of the specific bond. So face value is 100 rupees, correct. Coupon rate is 9.95%, and we are here in 2015, where the bond is actually priced at 107.71. So I'm just trying to arrive at the YTM using the discounting of the cash flows here. So in 2016, we will be getting 9.95 rupees, and similarly every year we will be getting 9.95 rupees till December 2021, and in December 31st, 2022, in addition to the 9.95, we will also be getting our principal back, which is 100 rupees. So there will be a cash inflow of 109.95. And why is this negative here? Because when we arrive at the NPV of a equation, 107.71 is the money that you have given it today. It has gone out of your pocket, so it is minus. 9.95 is going to come in and everything is going to come in, so everything is in positive. So now let's just come to the formula. Formula says that it is the IRR of all these cash flows, starting from the 2015 cash flow till 2022 cash flow. What does IRR mean? IRR is nothing but the internal rate of return, which essentially means that this 9.95 for all these years and this 109.95 has been discounted at a specific rate to arrive at this value of 107.71. So now that value is 8.45%. So if you go back to our YTM, it is nearly to 8.45%. The only difference is in 2015 we assumed the price is 107.71, but we will also be getting a 3 months payment because we are sitting in September today, and this is the quote as of September, which is a live example I have taken. And since there will be a payment due of about 9.95 by 4, that is not being factored here, and hence there is a slight change in the YTM. But I just want to tell you, like, this is how an YTM of a fixed income instrument is being derived at, where you discount the future cash flows at a specific rate to arrive at the current market price. So in our example here, PV is nothing but the present value, which is 107.71, and the PMTs or the coupon payments that you had received, and R is nothing but the yield to maturity. The discount rate which you had done for all the coupon payments to arrive at the current market price is nothing but the yield to maturity, which is covered in the next slide. The effective measure is this yield to maturity. As I just said, it is nothing but the yield that is required to discount the bond's cash flows to a net present value equal to the current price, which we had done in our Excel, and the YTM that we got is about 8.45%. Okay, so now what does this YTM mean? So it means that the current ongoing market rate is about 8.45%. However, our bond is indeed giving us 9.95, 9.939 higher than the YTM. So what I've heard, we fall in the third category, where our coupon rate is 9.95% is greater than the YTM of 8.33%. And hence our bond is trading at a premium. What do you mean by when it will trade at a premium? Premium means the current trading price will be higher than the face value, which is indeed happening in our example, because our current market price is about 107 rupees and the par value is 100 rupees. So in our example, and it will be applicable to all other bonds that is trading in the market, if your coupon payment is greater than the current ongoing market yields, which means there is more value to the bond that you are holding, and hence people are willing to pay additional rupees in addition to the face value of the bond. Now let me also explain the contrary or the vice versa. Let's just take an arbitrary example wherein the YTM is about 10%, which means the market is expecting 10%. However, our coupon payment is 9.95 rupees, which means that the market expectation currently is about 10%. However, your bond is only giving you 9.95%, which means the value of the bond is not that much. So the bond is going to trade at a discount, which means the market price will anything but be less than 100 rupees. Okay. So this is how YTM, this is the relationship between YTM and the current price. So I have also used a graph to explain how will YTM as well as the price movements happen over the tenor of the instrument. So in our example, I have used our same Food Corporation of India example, wherein the current market price is about 107 rupees. So from this 107 rupees, over the period of this instrument, it is going to decrease and it will become 100 rupees, which is the par value of that specific bond on the day of the maturity, which is about 6 years from now. We are in 2015 and it will 2015 almost end, and it is going to mature in 2022. So in about 6 years, the bond value is going to come and reach the par value. And as we just saw in the earlier example, ours is a premium bond, and this is a graph of a premium bond for which the price decreases and it comes to the par value on the date of maturity. For it also reaches the par value on the date of the maturity. So this is the basic concept between the yields and the price of a fixed income instrument, where it is called as a pull to par. The prices actually are pulled to par, either decreased or increased based on whether the bond is trading at a premium or a discount. So this graph explains the linkage. Okay. So now that we know a basics of how a fixed income instrument would look like, what are the basic characteristics, and what is the linkage between your expectations of the return as well as how it is going to reflect on the price. Now let us see what are the other factors we should ensure before we make the actual investment, which is the credit profile of the issuers. Like I said, Tata Steel, there is a possibility that Tata Steel could get into some kind of a business related problem. Like say the Land Rovers are not getting sold that much, the Jaguars are not getting sold that much. So the Tata group is getting affected. The overall economy is on a slump. So the overall steel sales is not happening that much. So the Tata Steel's business profile has got affected, and it might have an implication on the cash flows the company is generating, and hence it is not going to make the bond payments on time. It could start with the interest payments, and it could even go to the extent of they not being able to pay back the interest principal payments. So we have to ensure as to how we can secure our investment. What are the ways is what we are going to cover in the next two slides. So the first is the collateral. Now Tata Steel might not give you the collateral, but a bond which is rated in the investment grade. I will cover the investment grade part later, but which is of a medium credit profile, which give you such collaterals like mortgage will be offered as one of the collateral, land can be offered, shares, equipment, and specific assets like the current assets, the debtors, the receivables, those can be offered as a collateral for your bond investments. Another thing is that so Tata Steel might be under pressure, but it's not like the whole company is not generating any cash flows. Let's just say for we are come to December 2022 now. The company has generated about cash flows for the specific to this bond instrument about 90 crores they can spend from their overall cash accrual for the retirement of this bond, but the overall value is about some 100 crores. So there's going to be a 10 crores only shortage. However, 90 crores is available for retirement of the bond. So in case if you had made your bond senior, there are various classifications like senior, subordinate, unsecured. So if you are in the senior category, what you could have done is you would have been able to have access to the 90 crores, and in case indeed you would have got your money back. So your bond should be senior to the other lenders, other debenture holders for that specific company. So this is another way by which you can protect your capital. So these are the two forms in the collateral. Now, what is the credit enhancement? Now, this credit enhancement, the internal one is just what we saw, which is the subordination in respect to the other lenders to Tata Steel, and another one is the over collateralization. Like as you see in external credit enhancement, there can be an excess cash collateral. Like Tata Steel would be setting aside, say, 10 crores throughout the tenor of this bond instrument as a collateral, like something can go wrong. So the Tata Steel would not use this 10 crores throughout the tenor of the bond. So indeed from the operations they were getting 90 crores and the cash collateral of 10 crores is available. So a total of 100 crores is available for the retirement of the total bonds itself. And they could also go for external credit enhancements like bank guarantee or a letter of credit, which is normally a trade instrument, or a surety bond. Surety bond is nothing but which is given by an insurance company. In case Tata Steel is going for a default, an insurance company like say a new insurance company would be bailing Tata Steel out by paying 100 crores. So like any other bank, a bank like IndusInd Bank would be charging commissions on the bank guarantees and the letters of credit that they open, and insurance companies would also charge commissions on the surety bonds. But these are the commissions which the company is willing to pay, because Tata Steel also wants the bondholders to feel secure. Only then they will come across and lend the money in the first place. There is also this debt service reserve account. So this is normally used in banking relationships, wherein they have the next 3 months or the next 6 months interest and the principal, whatever is due, is being parked aside as in a debt service reserve account. So people and the company cannot have access to this debt service reserve account, and it is mainly as a kind of external credit enhancement which the company is offering, like cash collateral. Another way by which both the investors as well as the banks secure themselves is by way of covenants. There are two types of covenants, which is an affirmative covenant as well as a negative covenant. In an affirmative covenant, you say that these are the things the company should definitely do, like payment of dues in a timely manner, maintaining specific financial ratios, like your debt to equity should not increase more than 1 time. Your profitability, like in an EBITDA margin, should always be greater than 15%. Interest coverage ratio should always be 3 times. So these are the things you just stipulate over then. It will be tested every year, like the closing is every March. So you just say from like in the Food Corporation of India example, we would say from 2013 March till 2022 March, these ratios should be specified in a stipulated manner. So these are the affirmative covenants. Now we move to the negative covenants, which as you can see, it could be like there should not be any change in shareholding. Like Tata Steel should not change over hands, because a lot of people would have done the investment purely by looking at the Tata's name in it. no transfer of profits to the holding company via dividends. This would normally happen in cases, if you are going to lend money to say, if the Tata Steel had indeed formed a subsidiary which is going to explore its operations in, say, Tanzania in South Africa, and if the Tata Steel Tanzania company is raising debt and we had lent to Tata Steel Tanzania, so that company should not lend any profits to the holding company via dividends should not be given, because we had lent purely looking at the operations and the financials of that specific subsidiary and not on the overall group. So the subsidiary should not route its cash flows to the holding company, because in that case our subsidiary financials would decline. They should not raise any additional debt which would result in degradation of the financial profile of the company. So these are the negative covenants which you would stipulate by instructing the company and the issuer to tell that these are things you should not do during the tenure of the bond. Okay. And these are then there is also the two things, which is mainly the ability and the willingness to pay. Like ability, I can give you the example, as we just saw the example. This is the operations and the business environment has to, in addition to all these covenants, also the operating environment and the climate should actually be conducive for the company to generate the necessary cash flows. And finally, this is the willingness of the issuer itself. In addition to even generation of all such cash flows, he should have the willingness to indeed pay, because at the end of the day, if a corporate or an issuer is unwilling to pay, then we as investors get into legal tangles which we would not face, because we need the cash flows on the nth date itself. Okay, so now we have seen what is a fixed income instrument. We have seen the basic characteristics. We also touched upon what is yield to maturity, which has helped us in pricing of the bond in a granular fashion. We have understood what is YTM, which is one of the yield measures of the bond. So now we also seen as to what are the other ways by which we can secure our investments. So now we will see in the starting, as I told about credit rating agencies. Our example, it was rated at Tata Steel AA. So as an investor, we might not have the capability and the ability to actually price a bond, to analyze Tata Steel's business environment, to analyze how is economy going to look like 5 years down the line or 7 years down the line. We might not have the capability, and investors most of the time have the capital but not the ability to actually predict all these macroeconomic as well as the company specific trends. So that is when the credit rating agencies aid the investors. As you might be aware, S&P, Moody's and Fitch are the major three global rating agencies, and in India we have CRISIL, ICRA and the CARE are the major three Indian rating agencies. So if you could just look at the matrix, it says that the highest quality is the CRISIL AAA, and similarly it's for ICRA and CARE. And as you come down till CRISIL BBB, it is called as an investment grade. Where you say that there is a very high probability that the company would indeed return you back the money. If you come further down below, there is the non-investment grade, wherein we tell that there is little doubtful and the probability of the company defaulting is higher. And as you go further come down, which means it's the CRISIL D, or the company is actually in a default condition. So as an investor, we could look into the ratings that is provided by the external credit agencies to all these bond investments, and then may go ahead and make the fixed income investment. So hope you are clear about what is the basics of fixed income instruments and what kind of return you are looking at, and how you can find it out from the YTMs that is being quoted in the prospectus of fixed income instruments, and the things that we talked about in collateral and covenants are indeed captured in something called as a bond indenture agreement. So investors, even the retail investors, have access to it, and you could go through the same in detail. And there is also the rating agency rating that is given for every bond that is publicly listed, and that can be used also as an indication to actually make the fixed income investments. So please join us for other lectures which will be much more detailed about the other measures and the characteristics of fixed income investments. Thank you.